Evening, ladies and gents. How you doing? Woke up today to find that Scott Adams has died, and I thought, even though 90% of my audience is British, so I usually concentrate on the UK news, I thought this was worth talking about because I watched his live streams regularly. I thought he was a fantastic bloke, a very talented writer and cartoonist, and I was a huge fan of his. So I'm gonna do this, not to be schmaltzy and shed some crocodile tears for the camera. I never met the bloke, but because I think he'd like it if we didn't act like a bunch of pansies about it. And I told you exactly why NPR's ridiculous headline mentions that he was controversial. Spoilers, he wasn't controversial, he was normal. He's one of the most normal, dull, middle of the road people you'd ever meet. And as usual, this is just a smear. Yeah, we'll talk about it because he was a good bloke and he gave a lot of people some good advice. There he is with Dilbert. That was his cartoon. If you've never read a 3 or 6 panel strip of that, you've been living under a rock because I think it was syndicated in about 2,000 newspapers at one point. I was a big fan of it. You know, when I first moved to the United States, one of the main reasons I subscribed to the Washington Post, that was the first paper I subbed to when I got here, for 2 reasons. First of all, it used to be a paper of record before the communists destroyed it like they do everything else. And second of all, because it had so many good cartoons in the back, and one of them was Dilbert. As well as being amusing, it made some good points. The text on this NPR story reads, Scott Adams, the controversial cartoonist who skewered corporate culture, has died at age 68. He announced in May 2025 that he had metastatic prostate cancer and only months to live. Yeah, apparently when you get, basically we live too long. I think every one of us, if you get to about 90, you're getting it. Essentially, we all live too long. Our prostates keep growing. That's why as soon as you get to 40, you feel like you've got a bladder like a field mouse and you've got to get up for a piss every 4 hours. I think that's the one thing I miss the most about being 19. If I had to pick one thing, it wouldn't be my back or my knees not aching. Or the fact I didn't have to thumb it in after I'd had 6 pints. Right? It'd be not being able to sleep for 10 hours without needing to get up for a piss. That's terrible. I have to do it once a night now. 5, 6 hours, I'm done. Need a squirt. Apparently, when you get past 60, it's twice a night. So, you all remember Sean Connery's line from The Rock, right? Anyway, it says months later in November, Adams took to X to request and receive some very public help from President Trump and Health Secretary Robert Kennedy, because they're not wankers, in addressing some health insurance issues that delayed his treatment with an FDA-approved drug called Pluvicto. He said he was able to book an appointment the next day, thanks to President Trump. But he did share on his YouTube show not about 10 days ago that the odds of him recovering are essentially zero. But like most normal men, working class men, he took it in his stride. And he never once felt sorry for himself or give it the woe is me on any of his streams. And I think that's another reason why I liked him so much. One can only hope that every one of us gets to go out as stoically and with as stiff an upper lip as Mr. Adams did. His former wife, Shelley Miles, announced his death and read a statement from him who said, "I had an amazing life. I gave it everything I had. If you've got any benefits from my life, I ask you to pay it forwards as best you can." Here's the controversial part. He made headlines in the final years of his life for controversial comments about race, gender, and other topics, which led to Dilbert's widespread cancellation in 2023. Basically, he was a bog standard, middle of the road Republican, and that is unacceptable to the woke lunatics that run the world. That's it. He was a good guy. He was a charitable man. He never did anyone any harm, as far as I'm aware. He had a long life in the public eye, and unlike the legions and legions of degenerate kiddie fiddlers and perverts and sex pests like Harvey God Weinstein, you remember when, what's her name, Meryl Streep was noshing him off on national television? Unlike all those people, he was rich and famous, and there was no scandals about him. Do you know why? Because he wasn't a shitbag from Hollywood, that's why. Adams began his career at Crocker National Bank, working a number of humiliating low-paying jobs, including a teller. He said he was robbed twice at gunpoint. Remember the good old days when people used to rob banks? That doesn't seem to happen anymore, does it? Must because even the bank robbers know that the globalist sociopaths are trying to make cash extinct. So there's no point doing it anymore, is there? Computer programming, financial analysis, product manager and commercial lender. He said he then spent nearly a decade working at Pacific Bell, and while he was doing that, he started drawing Dilbert on mornings and weekends. He said, "You get real cynical if you spend more than 5 minutes in a cubicle, but I certainly planned I would escape someday." There he is working on his strip. He's clearly a better cartoonist than me because I still haven't graduated from pencil on paper and then scanning it in. It revolves around the white-collar engineer as he navigates his company's dysfunctional bureaucracy. He also opined on social and political events on Real Coffee with Scott Adams. It's a good show, and at least there's about 1,000 episodes of that you can go back and watch if you ever want to hear his wisdom for yourself. It had over 180,000 subscribers, and I was one of them. While discussing a Rasmussen public opinion poll asking readers whether they agree it's okay to be white, look at that, which is considered an alt-right slogan. How's that a slogan? It's okay to be white. They purposely picked that because it's not a negative thing in any way. It's not criticizing another group, and it's not even saying another group's good. It's just saying it's okay, and that's why they used it. They're not stupid, and they fell for it, and they crushed people for saying that. For saying that, something as innocuous as that. He also made comments about men's rights, the big H, and the jibby jab. So obviously everybody hated him. And he got public support from the likes of Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk. Anyway, to sum up, this fella had balls like watermelons. He wasn't a pussy. He told you what he thought. And most importantly, he was a good guy. He was a good, reasonable person with reasonable centrist opinions. He was far more polite and reasonable than I am, and I consider myself a decent fella. So he's worth listening to. I think we'll all miss him, especially the conservative movement here across the pond in the United States. And if you haven't checked out any of his work, you should go and give it a look because there was a lot of wisdom there. I'm sure I've stole some of his lines down the years. He was a great bloke. So yeah, rest in peace, Scott. You will be missed. Don't worry. At least he got to see the Orange Oracle sworn in for a second time. If that's not a silver lining around any dark cloud, I don't know what is. I like to think if there is anything after this wandering around as a bag of meat, as you know, I'm quite cynical myself, but if there is, I think he would be smiling down with a grin on his face, knowing that the Orange Oracle is back in the big boy house. Yeah, and he's driving all of the people that hated this decent, noble man wild with fury. Can't ask for more than that, can you? Anyway, that's all I've got to say on the matter. I will leave a link down to his channel in the comments down there, and you should check him out if you haven't before. All right, thanks for tuning in. See you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.